This is the Table for Two edition of the Deliberate Talks podcast, and I'm your host, Dakshin Adyanthaya, welcoming you to a new dialogue with fresh viewpoints to our professional presence. In today's episode, we are turning to the maze of consultancy, a realm where expertise meets solution and experience meets new avenues. So strap in for a conversational expedition with Subhash Pais. Subhash has over 2 decades of experience in marketing and sales, working for various brands in India and abroad. Currently, Subhash helps large businesses optimize their marketing spends for smarter ROI, apart from being an investor in street smart businesses and entrepreneurs. In our conversation with Subhash, we decode decisions and probe the consultant's perception and what it takes to become one. All this and more right after the intro. And we are back. Hello, Subhash.
Hey,
How are you
hey,
doing?
hi, Dakshin.
Super excited to host you, Subhash. Thank you so much for making time for the
My
show.
pleasure.
Super. Subhash, before starting the ritual of our questions, we normally have one warm-up question, and this is always on a lighter note.
Right.
So I'm going to start with asking you, how many cups of coffees does it typically take for a consultant to change a light bulb or rather advise someone to change it?
My answer to that is that I'm very chai sexual. I stay away from coffee. So chai is my performance enhancing drug. And normally a cup of well-made chai is enough to solve all issues in the world. So that's my answer.
Wonderful.
Whenever I'm posed the question about how many cups of coffee it takes to change a light
Uh-huh. It's always one. Lovely. Awesome then. Now that we're all prepped and ready to go for our first round of questions, I want to ask you with something a little more personal.
bulb.
Consultant as a word is a very dismissive word. Many feel you've become a consultant because you don't want to become an entrepreneur or you don't want to work under
Yeah,
anyone anymore.
yeah, yeah.
There's a gig far beyond this understanding, and you have been in the forefront. What does it feel like when you hear this?
No, so many years back, you know, uh, an old boss of mine, she met a couple of guys, who presented themselves as consultants. And,
Uh-huh.
she being the very, very blunt Delhiite that she was, she ended up saying, यार आजकल हर बेरोजगार अपने आप को consultant बोल and we were all stood right there in the background, giggling to ourselves. I mean, I was in my twenties at the time. I was in my early twenties at the time, and I was like, "Acha, to this is what a consultant is supposed to be." Uh, but over the years, what has happened is that I'm talking about my own realization. I mean, I'm not trying to generalize that. This is how it is. This is what the market reality is. But what I feel is that there isn't a word to describe what I do at this point of time. Okay. And hence, I
Mhm.
use a generic like consultant, uh, you know, simply because it helps me avoid a lot of questions. So,
Right.
consulting becomes very easy. Like, for instance, if I come on your show and if I call myself a consultant, more or less, people, even though there might be stereotypes and, there might be certain perceptions about consultants, they will more or less, slot me somewhere, and hence it makes my life a little bit easy. Uh, however,
Right.
however, what I have seen is uh, a lot of people call themselves consultants. In fact, I've seen people who are on sabbatical uh, and who are used
Mhm.
to, working, call themselves consultants because they go out looking for smaller jobs. They go out looking for temp
Right.
jobs, which will uh, sort of allow them, to be in sabbatical but also not take away everything that defined them over a period of time, based on what they were doing. So those type of people
Right.
also use, the title consultant. If you get onto Fiverr, if you get onto Upwork, etc., it's a world of consultants out there. Those are professionals
Right.
who have acquired skills and expertise in a certain area, and hence they call themselves consultants. Again, it is easier for them to call themselves consultants because it avoids a lot of unnecessary questions about what they do. So it's easier for them to slot themselves in. Uh, Coming to the quip about the fact that people who do not want to be entrepreneurs uh, go by the title of consultants, I don't think that is completely true. But I also feel that not everyone wants to go down the conventional entrepreneurial road. Some people might be happy in a really small niche, doing the things that they have always wanted to do, or doing the things that they love, and that might not be entrepreneurial in the way the world sees it, but it is very, very entrepreneurial to them. So um, so I mean, I'm not trying to raise capital. I'm not trying to run a business at a loss out here. I do not have vanity metrics to put out there. Again, that's again not entrepreneur, but there's a stereotype of an entrepreneur also that exists in the world. A consultant as a title, I believe, is simply used to get away from all of these things and just lock yourself in a very comfortable area so that there aren't too many uncomfortable follow-up questions about, what do you do, and tell me a little bit more about yourself. In one way, if you're a consultant, you're seen as an expert, or you're at least supposed to have some
Right.
expertise in something. So, hence, by calling yourself a consultant, in that one word, what you are projecting or conveying is that I know something about something. So,
Right.
let's start at that, and then the conversation actually, nicely moves into places and spaces that you yourself can control. So, that is what makes the word that much more desirable for people like me. You can even call us
Right.
solopreneurs in a way, but I don't think the word
Yeah.
solopreneur has caught up, in a big way. So we'll still stick to consultants, and I think that works out pretty well, so to speak.
Right, right. And when do you plan this move? Like, for example, a lot of individuals are relying on FIRE, right?
Right,
The financial
right, right, yeah,
independence, retire early
yeah,
policy. And that's slowly creeping into everyone's
yeah.
life. You're a marketer, investor, consultant. How did you plan this move from your daily job or daily
Right.
business? And when did you know it's the right time to do so?
So I'm not a big fan of fire. Um, you know, I mean, my greatest dream is to die on the job. So, I intend on uh, working till I can work, till it
Hmm.
becomes physically and mentally impossible for me to not work. And that is how I have been, right from my late teens. I started working much early, and um, I've actually worked in India, I've worked abroad, I have really enjoyed myself. I would be one of those few people who have really, really enjoyed working in sales as well. So, I really enjoyed being out there, being with customers, listening to them, talking to them, engaging with them, the entire thing. So I really, really love all of that. And hence, uh, I do not intend to retire ever. And you'll have to shoot me down
Hmm.
to, get me to stop. But having said that, I absolutely 100% agree with you that fire is catching up. A lot of people are, looking to plan where they would draw a line under their career and also about, what they might want to do after that. In fact, quite a few of my friends, some of them have gotten into farming. One of them
Hmm.
is an avid biker, so he has started a biking club. A third person is making travel blogs at the moment. So, and they are not retired as yet. I mean, but they are preparing themselves, uh, you know, uh, to at some point of time in the next few years to draw a line under their career and then, move on to these things. One of them has, two of them actually, one of them has become a self-help guru of sorts. He's trying to model himself on Sadhguru. He's a big bhakt of Sadhguru. Another one, very interestingly, has started a mentoring service. He mentors guys uh, in the
Mm-hmm.
dating space.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Okay.
So was very interesting. When I heard it from him, he was very embarrassed to tell me. But when I heard it from him, I was quite blown away because, I mean, when you look at society today, we do need men, who can carry themselves well into a date and behave accordingly. So this guy, has been mentoring guys, having counseling sessions with them on what to do, when you go out on a date, what kind of conversation to have, what is it that you should stay away from, and how do you interact, interact in a manner which creates a safe space for the other person to interact with you as well. And these are some things that
Correct.
we never thought about, perhaps, but this guy has found a space there, and uh, he is now starting to do, very, very well in terms of mentoring people. He's been now approached by an FM radio station to, come on one of their shows and, an agony aunt kind of a thing where, he would. So I'm saying, there are people in my own circle who are now looking to, sort of say that there will come a time when I turn 50 maybe, or, there will come a time when I will have X amount of money in my bank where it will be very comfortable
Mm-hmm.
for me to draw a line on what I'm doing at this point of time and then do the things that, I always wanted to do. So it's a very
Right.
interesting point in time that, we are currently sitting in. Uh, and I think
Right.
that, a lot of people also because, CTCs, etc., have risen quite a lot in the last 20 years. So, and also
Mm-hmm.
investment opportunities, everyone keeps saying India is a great place to invest in, and there's a reason for that. So, keeping all of these factors in mind, what ends up happening is by the time you are 50, you're pretty much well off financially, even if you've worked in India for about 25 years. So if you're well off financially, then you can afford to do the things you want to do. And hence, I see people getting into farming. And I see people who, I mean, they've never even had potted plants in their balcony, moving into farming. So they want to learn something new, and they want to do something in that particular space. So
Right.
this is something that is definitely going to happen.
Right.
So I think fire is
Right.
definitely going to happen. The trend is going to be people who will look to, retire either at a certain age or when there is a certain amount of money in their bank account and they feel
Correct.
comfortable about it.
Right. So, Subhash, you spoke about people who relatively have a little idea or have the intent to go and start something,
Yeah,
or even pursue a hobby at some point of
yeah,
time. But, as most individuals attain midlife crisis, when they feel the need to prove sufficiency, relevancy, or even being planned while others around them are so sorted.
yeah,
Some of them even don't figure this out in the whole
yeah,
life,
yeah.
and they all want money,
Right.
but they don't know how else or what else they're good at.
True.
In this process, I'm sure you meet a lot of young professionals and entrepreneurs who also go through this
Yes.
process. What is your advice for them, and what's the follow-up you normally get after advising such
Well,
professionals?
the funny thing that you mentioned is that I'm working with a couple of clients where I have actually brought in a few consultants, four consultants, and all
Mm-hmm.
of them are in their 20s, in their late 20s. They are 28, 29 years old, and they are
Right.
again going solo. So these have been young men and women who started working right out of college, which is 2021, and you
Mm-hmm.
know uh, tech we live like dogs years, right? I mean, 1 year in tech is like 7 years in traditional normal professions. So by the time you've acquired
Right.
6 7 years of experience, uh, you are uh, prepared really, really well to take on quite a lot of things in the real world, as in, in the current corporate world. So
Right.
one of the things that I understood from all four of them was that they sort of wanted to be more in control of everything that they did, right from the type of clients they worked for, to the kind of teams that they could choose to work with, to the kind of money that
Correct.
they could build, uh, to the time they could take out, as in almost all of them in from 2021, as in the last 2 years, has taken one trip abroad. So and that was for a decent amount of time. I mean, there's the smallest period of time that they've taken a break was 12 days, and the longest was 3 weeks. So that's a substantial amount of time. So they've been
Okay.
on international holidays that way, international trips that way. So there is this desire to be in control of yourself. So when do I go on an international trip? I will go at this time of the year. What is the amount that I will
Mhm.
charge my clients? I will charge my clients on the basis of this. What are the kind of clients I will work
Mhm.
with? So I will not work with these type of clients because of these reasons, but I will work with these type of clients. And who are the people that I will work with? So luckily for me, I happen to be in the good boys column of these guys. They're pretty solid professionals. So that choice, they were able to make those choices, and that is what has kept them in the space. Because otherwise, at least
Okay.
for them, it is not very difficult to get another job. But when you get
Correct.
another job, you need to punch in a clock. You need to punch in the morning. You need to punch out in the evening. You take an off. You might be doctor salary. So there are many things in a job versus being out there by yourself. It is scary being out there by yourself, and I would not, recommend people try this. I mean, I'd say people don't try this at home, but please give it a very, very good thought before trying. It's not that simple. But for these four individuals, what I've seen is that they took the plunge. Um, and there were certain things about them that I was able to make out why and how they were able to work with the people that they were able to work with, and now they're reaping the benefits of it. So for them, COVID was a boon where some of them were working for top startups, and they sort of got cut out. So they then moved
Mhm.
out, and they launched their own services, and today 2 years later, two and a half years later, they are very, very self-sufficient, and they're able to provide for themselves and have control uh, over their own personal lives. So the work-life balance actually ends up taking care of itself. The financial
Right.
bit sort of, can be managed that much more better. Again, there isn't a boss to answer to, which at times they found a little difficult and overwhelming because sometimes you need that carrot and stick approach. But eventually, with time, what they understood was that they were able to put in processes in place, which allowed for them to manage themselves that much more efficiently. So for youngsters out there, I would say that the one thing that you should look for are signs of burnout. I mean, there's a lot written on the internet about burnout. So, and there are a lot of psychologists who have written some really, really good stuff about burnout. If you are in your 20s, this is also a very stressful time to be in. I mean, it's a great time to be in, but it's also a very stressful time to be
Correct.
in. So, look out for signs of burnout because the more you keep burning out, it's like, to give you an example, I'm a big football fan. And one of the things they say in football is that you will never be able to become a great player by being in the hospital bed. If you want to be a great player, you have to play, you know. So uh,
True.
burnout basically takes you out of the game. You will never be able to function 100% if you're burning out regularly. So watch for those signs. And I would say that that is the energy you need to conserve, which can be utilized later on. Because when you go out on your own, the one thing that you require is loads of energy. Because trust me, to make that
Right.
first client happen, to sort of
Yeah.
manage your own finances in the interim when you're getting those first set of clients is not very easy. And it
Sure.
takes a lot out of you mentally, but also from an energy perspective, it requires a lot of energy. So my advice to youngsters here, the ones who are in their 20s, is to learn to breathe a lot. Make sure that
Mm.
you aren't burning out. Make sure you're well centered. Make sure you are not comparing yourself. I mean, these are all cliches. They've been mentioned probably a million times, and I'm just once again mentioning it because these are the things that happen in real life. So make sure you don't burn
Correct.
out. Make sure you're not comparing yourself to someone else. The iPhone 15 is just not worth it, and definitely not worth buying on EMIs. Try and preserve as much of wealth as possible, and not just financial wealth, but also physical wealth. Invest in good health as much as possible. Learn to live a nice, clean life. Uh, because what happens is, and this is again my experience, that once you cross 35, you are sort of entering your peak. 35
Mm-hmm.
to 55, or even 50. I mean, I'll bring it down to 50. The next, and those 15 years are your golden period. You've acquired so much experience, both in life as well as in
Right.
your profession. That is the time when you need to encash that experience. That is the time when you need to
Correct.
encash that equity. Also, equity in terms of the connections that you have in your industry, and the network that you have built. So you need to be able to encash that equity between the ages of 35. You can do it even earlier. There's no rule as such, but I'm saying 35 to 50 is when you will be at your peak. You will probably earn
Mm.
more between 35 and 50 than you will earn, at any other point in your life. So make the best of that. In order to make the best of that,
Mm.
you need to get to that point, free from the toxins of, having burnt out and all the other things. So when you are young and in your 20s, I would suggest that learn to enjoy yourself, but you also learn to breathe. You also learn to avoid burnouts as much as possible because your time as a professional is only going to get better with age.
Right. Right. Great. Great there. But there's also a part to it after the bifurcation where we get into the whole aspect of even if we plunge into consultancy as an alternative there. How do you find work? How
Right.
do you go about looking for that work regularly? Because if you don't find work, there's going to be anywhere burnout, financially instability, all those kind of things will peak in. So the first step towards it as a consultant, how do you
Right.
find work?
So, as I said, with me, it was so when people ask me what is your specialization. I've always mentioned that people are my specialization. I've
Right.
worked with people. I've taken youngsters who did not believe in themselves, and I turned them into peak performers. I have sort of forged very, very good relationships with clients that I have worked with. So, in a service related business, which ad and marketing is, you have a lot of people to people contact. You have to work with people. And for me, the simplest thing was, managing this particular network of people that I had. So, when it came to going on my own, all I had to do for me was, to call up and put the word around. And on the basis of that, on my past reputation, on the experience that people had working with me, and the that I now have a sizable number of youngsters who work under me who are now at very very serious positions in the industry. All of these things sort of ended up working in my favor. So I actually put in a word a couple of months before going out on my own. I was actually considering going out on my own, but I put out the word a couple of months before going out on my own. And by the time I decided to go on my own, I already had two clients waiting to sign. So,
Right.
day one that I started on my own, I also started billing. So that was, again, not a problem for me. But as I said, uh,
Right.
again, the process is simple. 20 to 35, create your networks, talk to people, meet as many people as possible, try and engage with them. And these days, you can engage with, there are multiple points of engagement, right? I mean, social media being one of them. So try and engage with them and what then ends up happening is when you come to 35 to 50, you can and again, do understand that, when you're out there and you want to work, you should not be shy of asking for work. So, when you're making that call, do not try to be subtle out there. At some point, drop that hot potato, telling them that, you're looking for work and you'd appreciate it if they could, put a word around. And one of the things I've seen is that always works. People who like you will actually go out of their way to help. Whether you have 80 to 100 people in your network or anywhere between 10 to 30, really does not matter. What
Right.
matters is you should know what you are doing, what you want to do. You should be able to define, your services in the most simplest form possible. You should be able to, articulate your value proposition in such a way that it is baby proofed. So once that is done, these are the people, because these are the people that are going to carry you forward. These are the people who are going to recommend you. These are the people who are going to pitch for you, to their contacts. So you do that, and you stay disciplined and diligent. With discipline and diligent, I mean, more often than not, what when I was young, I was told was most of the sales do not happen because of poor follow up. So make sure that, you stay in touch with the people who are out there recommending you. You talk to them regularly, because the more you talk to them, you are also likely to understand uh, what the market needs at this point in time. Where
Right.
is the market going? You're also likely to understand what and how the market prices itself, or what are the forces that will drive your pricing in the market, and then accordingly you can take corrective steps as well. So it's uh, as I said, if you are willing to give yourself the time, if you have the value proposition right, then it should not be a very overwhelming experience, and you should be able to sort of do this without getting burned, so to speak.
Right, right. Fantastic stuff, Subhash. This is great value, great insights, and great learning for someone who's really looking into making a move into the consultancy world. Now, I'm quickly going to
Great.
move on to the last round of questions. These are the rapid fire round of questions. This is where I get to grill you a little quicker. So, ready for
Is
what's
is
coming
there
at
a
you?
coffee hamper? Is there a coffee hamper with
We get this a lot by our guests, but unfortunately the budgets don't permit, so no coffee. But I could arrange a chai hamper for you.
definitely, definitely.
Done. Super. So in 60 seconds, three tips for individuals to deal with societal perceptions or family pressures when they decide to take an unconventional route, say at 35, 40, or even 45.
Yeah. So three. First would be uh, learn to not take criticism all that seriously. Family and societal pressures have a filter. So you need to filter a lot of that out. You need to stay true on the course that you have charted for yourself. The second is to never stop believing in yourself, because the minute you do that, then everything else starts getting to you. And the third thing is to have a lot of chai, because chai, as I said, is a performance enhancing drug.
Right.
And if you have a lot of chai, there's a likelihood that your energy will be that much more dedicated towards success, as in getting your clients. Because once you get the clients, once you start work, once you start billing, once you get your first paycheck, all societal pressures, all doubts, everything gets laid to rest. So there's
Right.
nothing better than success. So filter it out, believe in yourself, and succeed. These are
Sure.
the 3 points that I would sort of put out there.
Awesome. In 50 seconds, what are three tips for those who aren't moving into consultancy but instead exploring new passions like you did with films and investing in new businesses?
Okay, so keep your ears open. There might be an opportunity or two coming your way at some point. So there might be an opportunity coming your way, in an area that you might be very, very interested in. As they say that the harder you work, the luckier you get. So keeping your ears open is also hard work because opportunism goes with entrepreneurship. So even a consultant, even though he may not be he may not be seen as an entrepreneur, but he is an entrepreneur in some way or the other. So make sure that when the opportunity presents itself, you are there to take advantage of it. So keep your ears open. As I said, you can only do that if you're interacting with a lot of people. And the more you interact with people, the better you will get at understanding a lot of things out there. And you will also be able to see opportunities. I mean, I see three or four opportunities every week now than what I used to about a year back, and that is only because of the number of people that I keep talking. So my investing thing uh, just happened because somebody approached me saying, "Hey, can you help me with raising funds for my startup?" So I was like, "Yeah, let's try it out." And we went out there, tried it out. I spoke to a few people. As I said again, kept my ears open. So I heard from someone that this someone is an investment banker. So I ended up speaking to him. None of this is, it hasn't just happened. So that happened. Then there was another friend of mine who was attempting something in the area of food, and I happened to sort of sit and we came up with an idea of a certain type of QSR, and 4 years down the line, I'm invested in a food business. So I have three food businesses that I've invested in. So I'm
Right.
saying that all of these things have sort of happened. It's serendipity, but there's a science to it. So keeping your ears open definitely helps. So talk when it is needed, but listen a lot. So if you listen a lot, there's a likelihood that a few opportunities will come your way, and you definitely will be able to find at least one or two that suits you. And as I said, as I just said in the last one, that uh, you will succeed if you persevere. So in this case also, if there are a couple of opportunities that you really like, you will ultimately end up making it happen, because as a consultant, you're in the business of making things happen. So if you're doing things for your clients which make things happen, I'm sure you will do enough for yourself to make things happen as well.
Sure. Awesome. Awesome. In 40 seconds, you exited your business and chose to start fresh with newer experiences, while your mind would have 100 thoughts, selling your baby and moving on to do something new. What was that one motivation beyond money to help you cross that line?
Adventure would be one of them. After having done what I had done for more than a decade, I now wanted to do different things. And um, so my agency was a PR agency, and I was not a trained PR person. I did not belong to the PR industry as such. And having made that jump from another industry to PR, I knew that I had it in me to jump from PR to another industry. So
Right.
hence, I sort of did not hesitate when the time came. While there always is a certain bit of remorse, or for that matter, sadness at times like these. I was suitably quite excited about what lay ahead as well. So it wasn't as difficult a decision for me to make, even at the time. And now, a few years later, I am quite okay. Like, I have made my peace with it, and I have moved on from it as well. Because, as I said, I get to experience something new very regularly in this particular area.
Right. Right.
So I'm very much happy with what I'm doing at the moment.
Nice. In 30 seconds, three books you would recommend people to read to become financially independent and retire early.
Financially independent. So Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, Malcolm Gladwell's Blink, and Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. I think all of these three books are absolutely fantastic, and I mean, I have actually drawn a lot of energy from all three of them, and I'm sure. I mean, so. these are books that, I have. So I read one of these in my 20s. It helped me tremendously. I read one of these books in my 30s, and it really helped me. And the last of that is Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, which I read 3 years ago when I was 41. So I'm talking about these three books in three different times of my life: 20s, 30s, and now 40. Um, I've read many other books. Let not people think that the man reads one book in a decade. But if there are three books that I had to pinpoint that sort of stand out for me in terms of helping me out emotionally and being like a guiding light, I would say these three books actually had quite an impact on me.
Right,
So I
right.
would say Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, Malcolm Gladwell's Blink, and Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow.
Super. In 20 seconds, what's the most bizarre work request or consultancy gig someone has come up to you with?
So most bizarre consultancy gig. So so there was actually quite a few years back. I was managing the crisis on an airline which was going down, which was under fire, and one day what happened was we did an interview with Economic Times. We did the interview of the managing director of that particular airlines with Economic Times, and the communications head of that particular airline comes up to me and says, "Please ask Economic Times to print this with a big picture of our aircraft." And that was quite busy. I mean, to be honest, you would think that uh, people in that position would understand what editorial was,
Right.
and how it doesn't work like that. And
Correct.
I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for these people because they are always under a lot of stress. And at
Right.
that point of time, when there was a crisis going on, and all the flights of this particular airline were being grounded one by one, I could have understood the kind of pressure this person was under. But
Right.
you know, my entire team silently heard all that. We came out of the office, out of the building. Uh, we drove, I think, a couple of kilometers away from the building, and everyone burst out laughing in the car because that came. So just for that, I mean,
Yeah.
hearing it, holding our silence, getting into the lift, not laughing at all, getting out of the building, not laughing at all, getting into the car, not laughing at all, 2 kilometers away from that particular office building, and then bursting out laughing was something. I mean, that basically belonged in a film or in a comedy show somewhere. But that was seriously bizarre. Asking the biggest business paper in the country to print a picture of your product. That was quite bizarre to me at that point because the
Fair.
gentleman who asked it was a very, very experienced journalist himself. So it was really bizarre.
Fair. Fair. No problem. And finally, in 10 seconds, one advice that you would give to those who fear to become a consultant or have become one and have not become a successful one. Just one advice.
Well, to the ones who haven't been a success, that's really not a problem. I mean, there are so many other avenues to explore, including going back to a job. So it's never ever it's never ever on you if you tried something and failed. Because in our society, failure is not looked at very kindly even today. But to hell with it, I mean, you tried something, it didn't work out. It didn't work out this time. So no one is a permanent failure. So, and I wouldn't like to also use the word failure out here. You can always, take a break and come back, or you can, move to a job. That shouldn't be a problem at all. That shouldn't even have to be said. The other is, for those who are not succeeding, I would suggest to look within, because all the answers lie within. So is there something about your value proposition that you can change? Is there something about your pricing that you can change? Is your approach towards approaching customers, does that need a little bit of tweaking? There are so many questions which you should keep asking yourself. So the
Fair.
more questions you ask yourself, the more likely you are to seek answers. The more answers you get, the better you become. The better you become, the more likely you will succeed. So these are the advices that I would give to both these sets of people.
Lovely, lovely. Fabulous stuff there, Subhash. With that, that's a wrap.
Great.
And thank you
Great.
so much for being a part of this insightful conversation. It really helps a lot of people seeking in for mentorship or guidance when it comes to consultation. I thoroughly
My
enjoyed
pleasure.
hosting you. I hope you had
Same
a
here.
good time.
Same here. Same here. I really enjoyed being a part of this, and I hope your audience, gets something out of this conversation that we've had. And I'm looking forward to the feedback as well.
Super,
Both
super.
bouquets and brickbats. I mean, welcome. No problem.
Lovely, Subhash. Thank you so much and wishing you nothing but the best for your future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dakshin. Take care.
And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to all the audio and video channels of the Deliberate Talks and Pixelated Egg. Join me next week for a table for one edition. Until then, be curious, be adventurous, and never stop learning. Cheers.